Hello everyone, my name is Lance090 and welcome to my review video where I'm going to talk about Star Wars The Last Jedi. Going to be fully spoiler filled, so if you don't want to hear spoilers, you might want to leave now. If you want to hear spoilers, go ahead and stay. Was going to do this with the webcam, but I was noticing that it looked like I had a lot of input lag with my webcam for some reason, so turned that off. So sorry for just going to have to look at this still screen here. But so what did I think of it? Before we get into all the nitty-gritty details of it, just try to get the review kind of score out. I think the best way to do that is by comparison. Rogue One was better. As for how it compares to The Force Awakens, I didn't like Force Awakens. I know most people did like it. South Park made a joke about maybe you shouldn't like it. So I don't know what the general consensus for The Force Awakens is. I didn't like it that much. So when I compare it to this one, it's hard for me to tell because I kind of feel they're both not that great. So I guess the proper comparison, there is other people saying that this movie is not good. So that kind of tells me that this movie is probably worse than The Force Awakens for just about anyone. But that's up for you to decide, possibly. Let's get into the nitty-gritty details of why it might be. The first sign of trouble starts right at the title crawl. It's not an unexpected problem, though. It's they're just doing the copy-pasting the original trilogy again. You know, last Force Awakens, that was basically A New Hope. This one is like everyone was expecting this to be basically The Empire Strikes Back. So the opening title crawl is that their resistance base is getting attacked by the First Order. And obviously it's the same setup as the Battle of Hoth. But I know what you're thinking, that the scenes where Bad at Walker things in the new movie, the ones that kind of look like apes more than the elephants, you think that's probably that battle, but no, it's actually at the end of the movie. And this scene is actually not too drawn out, this whole encounter. So they did pull away from the Hoth theme there, which I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I feel like if you're gonna start pushing into the doing the same thing, you might as well go all the way, or just completely tell an original story, you know. Speaking of the title crawl, though, the next problem is just like the first one, it's not really explaining what the heck is going on. Now in the last one, it doesn't really say how the First Orders came to power. It's not saying why they're even a problem for the rebellion public to take care of. And there's the huge, gigantic plot holes of the last movie where somehow Starkiller Base destroying that one system destroyed the entire Republic fleet. It was ridiculous at the time, and it's still ridiculous. And you'd hope that this movie might explain what happened, that maybe the first Order is bigger than we expect. Maybe the Republic didn't actually retake the galaxy or something, but no, that's not explained. I guess the entire Republic fleet was just destroyed in that moment, and the title crawl says that the First Order has taken control of the galaxy. But yeah, I don't like how they're just skipping over the greater plot, like what the heck is going on here. How the things fall apart so much. And apparently it's not even been that long. We'll get to that pretty quickly here. But the first scene, they're about to open fire on the rebel base with this dreadnought with gigantic cannons. Poe Dameron flies up in just his fighter. He's the only one there. And he starts stalling for time by hailing the other ship. I did think it was kind of interesting to see a hail in Star Wars, because you don't really see that very often in Star Wars. The only time I can really think of is like Han getting asked for his security code. But yeah, you never usually see hails that much on Star Wars. This time they had a hail that was kind of like a Star Trek hail almost, just no visual screen. But the next problem was, it was like a very dark scene. The Admiral Hoth, or whatever his name is, explaining how he's going to destroy the rebels, and very serious. kind of over atop the comedic break that they give it is Poe's acting like he can't hear him, like they're having a patchy connection. And that's a joke that I think would be fine in maybe a different spot, but here it was just way too serious of a scene to push that in, I think, especially for right at the beginning of the movie, trying to establish the tone of the movie, which you've been establishing as a much darker movie, and only a couple minutes in, you're having laugh out loud comedy already. It's a little weird and out of place. So the next problem is a Star Wars classic problem of fighters being just a little bit crazy. Poe Dameron flies in, just his fighter, by the way, flies into this dreadnought, not into it, but over it, and starts taking out every single gun turret it has. Every last one. It's not even the dreadnought by itself, it's surrounded by other Star Destroyers as well. They have a different name than Star Destroyer. I don't know what that name is. So he goes in, he blows them up. Leia's trying to pull him back for some reason. This is the next kind of weird thing, is Leia, even though she's an admiral, isn't really thinking like an admiral very tactically at all. Trying to call him back. They scramble the fighters eventually. Of course, Poe takes them all out with no problem. Rebellion scrambles bombers to blow up the dreadnought. One last bomber makes it through without getting blown up, and it finishes off the dreadnought. Which that's all fine. It was just Poe being able to blow up all the gun turrets. Little crazy. I know he's a great pilot and everything, and I think that's fine, but I think it was too over the top. And at this point, the Empire / First Order should be really thinking again about how it's building its spaceships. Because you think about it, they've lost a Death Star to a single fighter, lost another Death Star to a single fighter and a Millennium Falcon, lost a Super Star Destroyer to an A-Wing. It lost Starkiller Base to a squadron of fighters, and now it's lost this dreadnought to Poe. We've got to quit this single fighter thing. It's crazy. It's just bizarre, and they should have way better anti-aircraft by now if this is becoming such an issue. Yeah, there's that, and then when Poe gets back to the ship, Leia for some reason is angry at him for doing it, because they lost like 3 bombers and 4 fighters. But they destroyed a dreadnought. This is where I go back to Leia is not thinking like an admiral at all. They're trying to show that she's really compassionate and doesn't want anyone to die, but they're pushing it way too hard. She wouldn't be an admiral if she was making decisions like losing 4 fighters and 2 bombers. Blowing up a dreadnought is unacceptable losses, you know. But we'll also get back to that in a second. Then we find out, this is why the title crawl is so bizarre, is it goes back to Rey, and she just offered the lightsaber to Luke. Has 0 time passed? It feels like only a couple of days have passed. It might be a flashback, but even if it is a flashback, it's only been a couple of days. So how the Republic loses control of the galaxy in 2 days, or just a couple of days? Definitely not even a month, I can tell you that much. Just bizarre. Really, really bizarre. He doesn't want to train her. I expected that. Senses the power in her and everything. What happened to Ben scared him. Doesn't want to use mistakes. We go back to the fleet, and they drop out of FTL, hyperspace, in middle of deep space, out in the middle of nowhere. And suddenly the First Order fleet is chasing them again. They realize they must have been tracked. Apparently there's some kind of new tracking device that works through hyperspace, I don't know why they make a big deal about that exactly, because we've seen in Star Wars that just a regular tracker can also figure out where you go after you go through hyperspace, you know? Boba Fett put one on Millennium Falcon. And, oh no, he just followed the Millennium Falcon. He actually even beat them there. I'm not really sure about that. But, the Millennium Falcon did get tracked to the rebel base on Yavin, so either way they can track through hyperspace, no problem. So I don't know why they're acting like it's a new thing. It's not really. So yeah, they get tracked through hyperspace. They only have enough fuel for one more jump, and they don't want to lead them anywhere that would be risky, even though apparently these are the only ships that they're not called the Resistance anymore, which I don't know why they were called the Resistance in the first place. I don't know why they weren't just part of the Republic. The Rebels again, but they're only like 3 ships. Like that's actually it. What you see on screen apparently is completely it. Just insane. Just insane. Yeah, they only have space for one more jump. They figure they're just gonna get tracked anyway, so they shouldn't jump. So they're just trying to outrun the First Order ships. And also, Supreme Leader Snoke's capital ship arrives as well, and he's on it. Rey is back on planet where Luke's at. I don't remember what his name was. And just keeps harassing him to try to get him to train her. She's having these visions, not even really visions. She's somehow connecting through the Force with Kylo Ren, and they can see each other and talk to each other through it. And he's kind of trying to get her to the dark side, and she's trying to bring him back. This keeps going on throughout the movie. I'm not going to bring up every single exact scene with it. Eventually, Luke decides that he will, says he'll give her 3 lessons. Well, he talks about why he thinks that the Jedi should go away and they shouldn't be around anymore. And that he'll tell her 3 lessons and why that means the Jedi should go. Not think top of my head of exactly what those lessons were, but he has her start reaching out for the Force. And this is the scene from I think it was even the first trailer for this movie, where she's talking about what she can sense, the darkness, the light, the balance. She starts seeing like this pit that's underneath the island they're on, and that is like drawing her in as the dark side. Luke keeps telling her, don't give in to the dark side, don't go down there. And she suddenly snaps out of her vision that she's having and starts yelling at her. He's like, you didn't even try to resist the dark side. That's when he decides he's not gonna. He decides again that he's definitely not gonna train her. She tries training herself a little bit, I guess. Just like starts training with her pole, and then she takes out the lightsaber and starts training with that. But there's not actually any. Luke doesn't actually teach her anything. It doesn't seem like the only thing that really happened of him teaching her anything was just that, telling her to reach out for the Force. Probably getting the order of events out of line because it jumps between the fleet and Rey's training back and forth. We'll discover most of Rey's stuff for now. Talks with Ben again, and he tells her why he turned to the dark side and says that Luke tried to kill him in his sleep. He woke up at the last second and stopped Luke. Realizing the evil of the Jedi, he burns down the temple. And then later confronts Luke about it, and he explains that he felt the dark side growing in Kylo Ren. He did go there expecting that he would kill him, but he drew his lightsaber, but he did realize before he would do it that that was wrong and he shouldn't do it, but it was already too late. Kylo Ren woke up with Luke above him with the lightsaber out, so his conception was done.
And it's at that time, with him still refusing to train her, that he decides to leave. He thinks that they're still good in Kylo Ren, that she can bring it out of him. Oh, no, I did miss a scene. She does go down to that hole underneath the island. It's just weird visual effects things that go on. It's just kind of gimmicky, It's just to try to, I don't know, not make a point, but be artsy where it didn't really need to be. But basically, she was asking this cave kind of thing, dark side cave, basically like the tree that Luke went into when Empire Strikes Back. She asks it to show her parents, and she looks at this like crystalline wall that's there, and there's like two figures, and they kind of morph into one. And when she puts her fingers to the crystal, it's just a reflection of herself. No, it's not really ever answered. Get to that later as well. So, seeing that he's not going to train her, she's having some doubts about him because of the conflicting story with him and what Ben said. Then one of the times where she and Ben are communicating telepathically, they touch hands, and she says that she sees a vision of him in the future where he turns to the light side. So she gets into the Millennium Falcon with Chewie, and they fly off to go find Kylo. Meanwhile, the fleet is getting chased down by the Order. I keep wanting to say Imperials, that's why I keep hesitating there. But, it's basically the same thing at this point. They're getting chased down still. One by one, the smaller of the fleet ships are getting blown up. They're gonna run out of fuel in like 6 hours. They can keep out of the range of the Star Destroyers from blowing them up, but they can't outrun them forever. They send Ben and this engineer that he meets. I think her name was Rose. She was the lover of the character who was piloting the bomber that blew up the Dreadnought. They go on a mission with BB-8 to find an expert hacker that can hack into the ship, the Snoke ship, and disable the hyperspace tracker. So they go off and do that. Like a gambling planet. What happens there that's even important, really? They find the guy they're looking for. They learned about who they're looking for from Maz Kanat. They see him, but they don't get to him in time. The security drags them out because they illegally parked their ship on the seashore. And then while they're in prison, they see the guy in the prison cell with them. He's overhearing their conversation. He's like, "Oh, I can hack that." He's a very scummy, strange-looking dude compared to the guy they were looking for, who's like extreme gentleman in like a fancy suit and stuff. So it's kind of a funny contrast there. There are good moments in this movie. It's a lot of bad. He manages to get them out of the prison. He knows how to lockpick everything. They escape. On their way out, they free these horse-like creatures that were being used as racehorses, basically. That are kind of being abused. They ride those to get away. The police are after them. Get cornered at a cliff face eventually. They let the horse thing that they were riding go, be free, and it's Finn and Rose got separated from the other two, BB-8 and the new guy. And the new guy and BB-8 show up in a different ship and pick them up and save them, and they head back to the fleet. I'm skipping over lots of details, but I'm just trying to cover the main stuff and the issues I saw as well. They come back, and actually Rey gets there first. Rey gets there first. She gets in an escape pod and launches out of the Millennium Falcon onto Snoke's ship, and then Finn and everyone show up again, and they get back on board the cruiser, the public cruiser, rebel cruiser, whatever you want to call it. The same thing, you know. You know, the same thing. They get back on it, and they explain their new plan. Oh, I forgot to mention that this was another huge problem with the movie. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention it. While they're getting away from the Star Destroyers, the bridge of the cruiser gets blown up. Kylo Ren and his two support fighters were going for the bridge. He hesitates shooting it out because Leia's there, but the support fighters blow it up. It seems like Leia's gonna die. She's floating down in space, and she wakes up and uses the Force to levitate herself back to the ship, to the airlock, and gets back on board. It's way over the top. It's really bizarre. Even the way it just looks really bizarre, and she hasn't said at all that Luke trained her in the Force one bit, you know? I think even in the books, I don't think she gets that much training. I don't think she goes down that path very heavily. I think she gets some, but she isn't actually good with the Force. Of course, books are non-canon now, but again, it's not established anywhere in this new series either that she's gotten trained by Luke. And even if she was, it doesn't seem like Luke has that power. Also, he does have that power in the books, but it's just really bizarre and very weird, out of place scene that doesn't really fit the tone of Star Wars at all, I don't think. It almost makes me wonder if it was done like after the fact, after the movie was done and the actress died. I almost feel like that shot might have been CG'd in as to like make her seem more powerful, to kind of, I don't know, to kind of, I can't explain it. You know what I mean, I think. Just to kind of make her seem bigger than she is. But she does fall unconscious after that, and this, just gonna say, SJW looking admiral takes command. And she doesn't seem to have any plan. She's just keeping the ships moving in a straight line. It almost seems like she might be working for the Empire. And Poe's not really liking her. And they kept this plan secret to get the codebreaker from her. But they somehow rigged one of their ships to be cloaked to sensors. I guess the Slicer does it, the codebreaker they found. He knows a way to like not visually cloak the ship, but sensor cloak the ship and get it through the shield grid undetected. So they do, and they get on board. No one's noticed that Rey got on board. When Rey lands, Kylo Ren comes up to her first, to her pod, and then he steps away, and then the stormtroopers come up with cuffs, and she gets taken to Supreme Leader Snoke. Snoke's saying that he was the one who was joining their minds together. It wasn't them connecting to each other themselves. What she thought she saw in Kylo was a lie. He's not actually no light side left in him. That's what Snoke's saying. And pries into Rey's mind to figure out where Luke is. And then after he has that, he decides he has no use left for Rey, and demands that Kylo kill her. Kylo starts pulling out his lightsaber to, looks like he's gonna decapitate her. But at the same time that he's moving his lightsaber, he's gently moving her lightsaber, which is by Snoke's side on his throne, to be pointed at him. Then Snoke's like trying to predict what's happening, just to show like how powerful he is, I guess, in the Force, so he can sense people's minds and stuff. And he's like, and then the saber will ignite, and then he ignites her lightsaber, which kills Snoke. Yeah, Snoke just is killed. I think this is their big twist thing that they're trying to talk about. It's not actually about her birth, which we were thinking it would be. Just that Snoke gets off like he's kind of nobody. They do make a show of his powers and stuff during that whole sequence. It's just like force pushes and force chokes and all that good stuff. But he just gets killed in an instant. There's no lightsaber fight with him or anything. Then her and Kylo Ren both draw their lightsabers, and they have to fight the honor guards that were protecting Snoke. Which, that is an awesome scene. That fight is amazing. And this is where you're like really hoping that things are gonna get really awesome, because like they're actually working together and it's really cool. Meanwhile, Finn and BB-8 and everyone, they're on the ship disguised as Imperials, trying to get to the tracker. They get caught while they're down there. The ship's really getting close to running out of fuel now. The Admiral lady is, instead of keeping everyone in the ship, she's telling them all to get into transports, which Poe points out are unshielded, unarmored, and would be just ships to the picking. So he stages a mutiny to try to take over the ship and delay for Finn and everyone. They got captured, though. They get taken down to Captain Phasma, who's gonna execute them all. The Splicer guy is nowhere to be seen, but he eventually shows up. He's not getting killed like the rest of them. He says, "I worked out a deal with them." He tells them that the transport ships are fleeing the cruiser, and they're using a cloak to not be seen. And so he read out that plan, which Poe didn't know about. That's why he did the mutiny, is he didn't know that these transports had this cloaking thing going on. I don't know why the Admiral just didn't tell him that was going on. It's kind of dumb. She could have told him and it would have fixed everything. No. Leia gets out of... She wakes up from her coma or whatever she was in and stops them. They go through with the plan to launch the transports. Except the Supreme Leader ship stops shooting at the cruiser and starts blowing up the transports. 13 transports to be exact. Next time I watch it, I should probably count how many shots go, because I think there might have been more than 13 transports that get blown up. But yeah, apparently that's still the entire rebellion. Those 13 transport ships, that's the entire rebellion. I don't know why it got so small. But yeah, they're getting blown up. Rey and Kylo kill all the honor guards, and then Kylo turns to her and is like, "Let's just end this all already. Let's end the Jedi, end the Sith, let's end the Rebels, let's end the First Order, let's rule the galaxy together." And there's just so much with that statement that's so weird, because looks like he turned to the light side. Not exactly on the dark side. I mean, he is saying that he wants to get rid of the First Order. He's saying he wants to get rid of... He killed Snoke. It's really unclear what his motivations are. It's not clear if he's turn to the light side, if he's still on the dark side. It's not even clear if he's in the middle. And it's weird that Rey she doesn't try to talk into any sense into him, like, no, the rebels are good, you got it all wrong. Doesn't try to say, yeah, the Jedi do need to go, but we don't need to kill everyone, you know. Doesn't do that. They get in the lightsaber struggle. I forget what happens to Kylo Ren's sword. Something happens to it, and they're just struggling over her lightsaber. And eventually their lightsaber explodes. And it cuts from that scene of what they're doing. And meanwhile, all the transports left the ship except for the admiral that took over while Leia was down. And she turns the cruiser around and jumps into light speed into the Supreme Leader's ship, which cuts it in half, and for some reason also cuts every single other Star Destroyer in half, but that's not really mentioned again. Main thing is just that the Supreme Leader's ship gets cut in half by it. In that moment, that postpones Finn's execution, as the whole hangar bay that they're in catches on fire and everything. Kylo Ren makes back up, and Rey's gone. Huff, the admiral guy, was about to kill Kylo Ren while he was asleep, but Kylo Ren woke up too soon. And Kylo Ren says that Rey killed Snoke and got away. Then Huff's really angry at him because he's giving him orders. Like, the Supreme Leader's dead, we have to talk about this. And Kylo Ren force chokes him and says, Supreme Leader is dead. And Huff says, long live Supreme Leader. Basically giving in to Kylo Ren. Trying to cover everything quickly. Let's see. Rey actually show how Rey got off, but she does end up on the Millennium Falcon somehow. The others, they're on the hangar deck trying to get to a shuttle. Finn sees Phasma and an opportunity for them to fight. She has like a staff thing, and he gets the TR-8R's stun baton thing, and they fight for a while. She overpowers him, and then is it either Rose or BB-8 saves him somehow, and then Finn kicks her down into the depths of the ship, down a fiery pit. Once again, Phasma, completely disappointing. It doesn't accomplish anything in this entire movie, like she did in the first one. She did nothing. So they get off to a Imperial shuttle, and so all the transports and the shuttle, I guess, for some reason there's this planet out where they're at. They've not mentioned that they're in a system at all, and then when they jumped out of space, it looked like they're in deep space. Nothing around them. But there's this planet there. So the shuttles land there, and there's a old rebel base there. This is the planet that has the sand. That's a general statement, but it's the one that you see in the previews that you think is Hoth, but isn't. Everyone lands there. They shut the gigantic blast doors to the base, and they realize that there's only one way in and out of the base. It's those blast doors, and the first order is dropping their troop transports with all the AT-AT Walker things and everything else in a giant laser battering ram. And all they have in this old rebel base is like, how many did they say there were? I think it was 13 again, just like the transport ships. I think there was 13 of these sand skimmer things, which are pieces of junk. But Finn and Rose get into those along with a bunch of nobodies that aren't part of the plot. And they're making a charge towards this gigantic laser cannon thing that they have to destroy to keep the base from getting blown up. In the meantime, they're trying to send a signal out to the outer rim
hoping that anyone might be rebel sympathizers. And apparently there isn't. They wait for a while and there's just no response. So yeah, that's why I'm saying these 3 ships are the only resistance ships there is. For some reason, the entire rebellion, the entire republic is gone. And it's never been explained why they're gone. I just don't think the First Order is powerful, and they don't ever explain. It drives me insane. They didn't explain in the first one either, which... But, when they're explaining that there's... so these sand skimmer things make the run for, the cannon. The AT-AT walkers pick off most of them except for, like, Rose and Finn, basically. The gun's almost charged. Finn decides that he's going to fly his machine into the giant gun to blow it up. And then at the last second, Rose drives her sand skimmer into his to push him out of the way of the giant cannon. And they survive. So yeah, for some reason Imperial forces are not doing a very good job of blowing things up that are coming towards them. The First Order also scrambles fighters to take them out, and Millennium Falcon shows up with Rey and Chewie, and they pull off all the fighters. Cool shots of that fight. There was good moments again, like I said, but not enough. Looks like all hope's lost because no one's answering the phone. No one's answering the call for help. All the sand skimmers are blown up. The AT-ATs are closing in, and the door's broken open. And Luke shows up and meets C-3PO again, and they have their talk, and that's good. Then he walks out the front door, and Kylo Ren sees him out there. He says, "Everyone fire everything on him." Every single AT-AT walker, every ATST, and everything all opens fire on him. They shoot him for like a good minute. Kylo Ren keeps telling them to keep firing, and when the dust settles, Luke is still there. He brushes off his robe, which is great. That's actually pretty great. And this is the point in the movie, like, oh my god, they nailed it. They've made Luke this incredible badass that we've always wanted. We finally got him. That's amazing. And Kylo Ren comes down out of his ship. He's just kind of hovering in a ship. He's not in one of the AT-AT walkers, kind of weirdly. He walks out to face him, and he's like, "You're here to try to tell me you're sorry, that you're gonna try to turn me back to the light." Looks like, no, that's not why I'm here. So Kylo Ren pulls out his lightsaber, and Luke pulls out his. And they have a bit of a lightsaber battle. Not the worst lightsaber battle. It's better than A New Hope. It's probably close to the Empire Strikes Back lightsaber fight, but not as good as Return of the Jedi, and definitely not any of the prequel lightsaber fights. And then Luke turns off his lightsaber. It's important to mention that his lightsaber is blue for some reason. Become apparent in a moment. He turns off his lightsaber and says, "If you strike me down in hate, then you'll never get rid of me." Kylo Ren charges him and slices his lightsaber through him. When he turns around, Luke's still standing there. He hasn't been hurt. Kylo Ren comes back up to him and tries to stab him with the lightsaber, and it just goes through him like he's not even there. I forget what Luke's exact words are, but he's just like, "See you around, kid." He vanishes, and cuts back to Luke on the island planet, and he collapses in exhaustion. He created like an illusion of himself, which was still
freaking awesome. It's like, oh my god, Luke is so powerful now that he has this force power where he can like physically project himself somewhere and not be hurt or anything. He completely outsmarted the First Order. That's amazing. Get back to that in a moment. Rebels, they find a back way out of the base. It's covered up by rocks though. Rey lands the Millennium Falcon near him and he moves all the rocks out of the way. Just talk about hope and all that stuff. And gets back to Luke and he disappears out of his robes. He died. That ruined it. That just completely ruined everything. They made Luke this gigantic badass that we always wanted. They made him like completely outsmart him, and it's like, oh my god, he not only beat Kylo Ren, he outsmarted him. He's gonna be able to face him again later. Gonna be able to train Rey. No, he's dead. There's literally no reason why he even had to project himself. He could have just shown up, and the story would have been exactly the same. Just have Kylo Ren kill him. I feel like that would have been better than him just disappearing. Because, like, we all knew that Luke was probably gonna die in this one, but like, it didn't have any emotional weight to it. And just bizarre. Like, there's other moments in the movies that made me tear up a little bit, and that one just didn't. Like, why? Could have done that so much better. They could have either made him die a lot more epically, or they could have kept him alive to surprise everyone. And Millennium Falcon takes off. Yes, the Millennium Falcon. There's like 15 people left alive that are apparently the entire Resistance, the entire Republic. Leia, Rey, Chewie, C-3PO, R2-D2, BB-8, Finn, Rose, Poe, and just a few nobodies, you know. That's it. Everyone else is gone. No one ever answers that distress call. They're all gone. Entire galaxy. This isn't even Star Trek where it's just a tiny little portion of the galaxy. The entire galaxy, the entire Republic. There's no one left to help them. This is very bizarre. Nope. Snoke doesn't show back up. Snoke seems to be seriously dead. Leia says we have all we need right here. Seems that's like when the credits should have rolled. Another scene of one of the kids who was a slave working at the stables where those racehorse things were at. He's telling the story about Luke Skywalker to the other kids, and their master comes in and yells at them, and they all scatter to go do their to do their jobs. And the one who's telling the story goes outside, and I need to rewatch this because I thought he just picked up the broom and started looking at the sky. I just watched someone else describe it as he force pulls the broom to his hand and then looks up at the sky. Which it becomes a whole new layer of like really bizarre. Oh, we got another bizarre thing, but we'll get back to it. But yes, very like that would be incredibly bizarre if that happened. If he actually did use the force to pull it to his hand. That's a whole nother video, you know, in and of itself. And he has a resistance ring that Rose gave him, I guess, earlier. And that's the end of the movie. I did forget to mention that Kylo Ren says, "I tell you who your parents are. They were nobodies. They weren't anyone." Which that was the big deal we were hoping for, to find out who her parents are. So either Kylo Ren is just lying. Distinct possibility he's just lying. The other possibility is he's not lying. That the EA Battlefront 2 story is correct. Or neither, and they are just to tie into the last scene. If that kid is using, it's kind of implying that maybe the Force is awakening all over the galaxy or something. Very weird. It's weird. But I forgot about the weirdest scene. After Rey leaves to go front Snoke and Kylo Ren, he decides that he's gonna burn down the Jedi writings in the tree where they're kept on the island. Then, as he's going to do it, he hesitates. Yoda appears. Yoda appears as a Force ghost, except a very, very distinct Force ghost. It's not the like blue hologram that it usually is. And he's puppet Yoda, which I understand that people do want like the physical models and stuff, but it does feel out of date now. 2017 physical model Yoda, it looks pretty bad. Not only that, he also has the personality of original series Yoda, not the Yoda that we come to know in the prequels, which is much more sane Yoda. He's the insane Yoda that we're familiar with from the original. And Luke's like, "You're here to tell me to not do this, right?" And Yoda calls down a lightning bolt from the sky and blows up the tree himself. Force ghosts can do that. They can just call Force lightning down now. That's pretty impressive. They have a very weird conversation. So yeah, that's the movie. Now they've repeated it all out loud. I know I said before that wasn't really the worst. I think it is the worst movie. I think it's the worst movie by a fair... I think it's a really bad movie then. It took me discussing this out loud kind of realize that it's bad. Really, really bad. There are good parts that they don't really make good on, and they kind of ruin. Like, the complete badass that Luke seemed like he was, to have him die. Not even die to a fight, just exhaustion or something. Extremely lame. The Rey and Finn teaming up to fight the guards was amazing. And that was ruined by how weird it was that Kylo doesn't seem to have a motive anymore, and Rey wasn't really trying to talk him out of his motives at all. Even though clearly, like, this was the closest they've ever been to turning him back to the light side. She should have tried to talk to him, but she doesn't. She doesn't try to talk to him at all. Then just the scenes. Yoda scene's bizarre. Leia scene where she comes back being in space is bizarre. The ending scene, if that kid really did force pull that broom, oh man, people are gonna be pretty mad. Like, I didn't notice that. I really didn't notice that at all. I thought he just picked it up, but I'll have to watch that again and tell me what you saw. I will say that neither this movie or... I don't remember about Rogue One. Neither this movie or The Force Awakens, no one in the movie theater cheered. Either when it started or after the credits. I remember distinctly when I was a kid, all three of the prequel movies, people cheered both at the start and at the end. All three movies. So, you guys gotta stop giving the prequels crap, man. Like, they're actually pretty good. There's bad acting. There's really bad acting, I know there is. But small part. Jar Jar Binks is a small part Jar Jar Binks isn't critical to the story whatsoever. You don't have to focus on Jar Jar Binks. Anakin's writing in Episode 2 is bad, we know. But everything else about the prequels is really, really solid. Not like this movie. He's extremely bizarre. I'm just disappointed. Looking forward to these episodes 7, 8, and 9 forever. Some older fans way longer than the rest of us have. This is not going very. I think Rogue One was actually pretty good. I think they did that one pretty well. Some small problems with it, but not like this. Anyway, that's all the time I have for this video. I hope you all enjoyed, and have a good day.